Hello and welcome to Anatomy of Marriage. I'm your host, Melanie Studley.
What's up, my good friends? My name is Seth Studley. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. Welcome to Anatomy of Marriage. Today is a super exciting show. We talk to an intense freaking dude, and he will inspire you. You will love his story because we do, and It's really fun.
We hope you enjoy our interview with Tank. All right. See you soon.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We are super excited that you're here on our show. But before we dive into all the wonderful things you're going to share with us, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey and who you are?
So it's pretty simple. I'm a dad first. I am a former active duty Marine, and I'm currently a deputy sheriff in Texas. And prior to all of that craziness, I did a lot of social media. I used to have some pretty big platforms, and then one day just gave them all up to chase another journey. So here we are today, on a new stride and chasing dreams. So.
Right. Awesome. What did you used to do on your old social media platforms? Like how did you get such giant followings?
Well, to be honest with you, one day I got out of the Marines and I was pretty depressed. The path that I had been on and the consistency that I had had in my life had just kind of completely disappeared, and I was starting to lose myself. And one of the greatest things for me was laughter. If somebody could make me laugh, kind of took all the negative nonsense away. So one day well, it's kind of crazy, but I got really drunk. I got really drunk one day, and I put on an American flag thong. I jumped on my friend's donkey, and I rode it down the highway, and I actually stopped traffic. And all these people were filming, and I was just like, whatever. Traffic was backed up. The police showed up, and they're like, "You just got to get off the road, man." And somebody filmed it, put it on the internet, and it blew up. And so I created an Instagram one day and posted the video, and then other videos, and then it just kind of grew from there. And so I just continued to do crazy videos on the internet to make people laugh and that adult humor. And so that's how it all kind of started back in the day.
That is hilarious.
I can't do that no more,
But like I love that stuff in college. Like when that show Jackass was popular, and all those things.
Yeah,
we would do stupid stunts like that, like get in buggies. I mean, I would be on college campuses and literally jump out of trees in front of girls and go, like not like scary at night creeper stuff, but just like be stupid. We'd do all kinds of just ridiculous stuff, and it was just fun, right? And I mean, I guess Instagram wasn't a thing way back in the day, like when we were doing it, but it was still crazy and fun nonetheless. So thank you, man. I've followed you. We first found out about you on the Order of Man podcast, and Melanie listened to it first, and she was like, dude, you got to check the show out. And it was just
like, Tank is amazing. Text him now. Like, this is so transformative.
You captured us with your story and just like how real you are. Plus you're Southern, you're from Texas. So I'm from South Carolina. So I always like to hook up with, Southern people and stuff like that. I'm like, all right,
found out because I was looking at that thong on that donkey. I'm just kidding.
Oh yeah, no. Still up somewhere. You can find it anywhere probably.
That's going to be our image for this episode. But no, we wanted to reach out because we like Seth said, we heard you on Order of Man, and I was like, this is just so amazing. And Tank is the kind of guy that I wish I could just grab and be like, okay, talk to all the dudes who listen to our show. This is the kind of person who knows how to transform themselves, knows how to kick ass, knows how to do amazing things, and be, like you said in your interview on Order of Man, you said, cry like a man. And I was like, that I need to talk about whatever that means. Right. So I want to talk about like what your journey, what you do now, how it's different from how you were riding on a donkey with a thong on, and like how you can encourage and inspire men to do that in their own lives, if that makes sense.
Okay. So, well, where I'm at now, vice where I was years ago, I think it all just boiled down to me being tired of who I was and tired of, the past that I had, that basically shaped who I was at the time. So one day I just kind of snapped and just said, I'm done with all the things that are holding me down right now, and I'm looking for a new path of life and a new path to move on into the future. So it all really took me to delete all of my social media and really just be honest with myself And when I was honest with myself, everything started to change.
Mm.
I got rid of everybody in my life. I deleted probably 1,000 numbers in my phone. I changed my
Wow.
phone number. I moved out into the country. I started training really hard every day. And I put consistency back into my life and hard work. And I stopped lying to myself.
Mm.
And when I stopped lying to myself about the things that I believed were right in my life and realized that they were nothing but poison, uh, my fruits of what I had sowed started to grow. And then I
Mhm.
started to see the flowers coming out of the ground in my head. And it was like, hey man, here we are. I'm starting to find something. And then as it started to grow, then I really started to grasp this is what I need in my life. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people, I believe, they start this journey and then it gets hard for them. And then so they back down.
Mhm.
And sorry, my dog's going crazy right now.
No, it's fine.
That was good.
So they start this journey and then they back down and then they quit because it became so hard. But in reality, the most important thing is to just keep grinding, because when you keep grinding, so much comes out of it.
Mhm.
You really learn what it means to hustle. You really learn what it means to go through the hardships. You really learn what it means to overcome failure. And there's a list of things that come with consistency. So
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
in saying that, I had to really start my new journey where I'm at right now by getting rid of everything that I had been doing in the past, to learn how to grow. So it's kind
Mhm.
Right.
of like, you know, when you plant a seed, if you don't give it light and you don't give it the right type of food or the nutrients or the
Mm-hmm.
water, well, it's not going to grow. If you
Right.
just leave it in the shade, it's just going to sit there and it's just going to be what it is. You have to
Mm-hmm.
consistently water and you have to consistently give it sunlight, and you got to consistently give it positivity. And when you do that, that's when you start seeing the fruits of what you sow.
Right.
Right. You
Love
you
it.
you got to cultivate it. Like things just don't happen, right? Like we mainly talk about marriage and relationships, and people get in relationships, and we get questions all the time, or marriages, and go, oh yeah, well it's supposed to be here, and it's all like roses and all this stuff. But no, you gotta work at it. You gotta cultivate it, because I found, just as a man, anything worth having is worth working for. Right. Just
Right.
anything worth it's so much more rewarding. Like I'm a hunter, right? Like the deer, the elk that I get taste 1 million times better than like just going to the store and getting it. You know what I'm saying? Because you're thinking
Right.
about the whole process and
Right.
all this stuff. But when going back, when you say like you left social media, you're not just like saying, yeah, I had 100 followers here. You had hundreds of thousands of people that followed you, right? And then just dropping all that stuff was a really big deal. Can you tell us a little bit about, let's kind of maybe dive into some of that transition of what made you realize, like, oh my gosh, this is not good? Because another thing that happens all the time, we get listeners, a lot of men saying, this is stupid, like this, kind of like the larger this, like, what is this? My job
Mm-hmm.
sucks. I don't even know.
I'm
I'm
unhappy.
I'm unhappy in my marriage. I love my wife, but we just have a shit
Right.
relationship. They come to a point. So what was that point for you? We're like, all right, boom, gone. I'm going, in the country and going to train and do me for a minute.
Right. Well, it boiled down to a lot of things, honestly. One day these iPhones. One day I get on my phone and I was like 9 hours of social media. I
Mm,
was
Wow.
looking at it. I thought I was on my phone 9 hours today. Are you kidding me?
Wow.
wow.
And I remember my son, after I'd gotten a divorce from my ex-wife, he's like, "Dad, you're always on your phone." And I'm like, "No, I'm not. I'm not always on my phone." And then one day I looked at the numbers on my
Mm-hmm.
phone, it said 9 hours. And that's when I really started to realize, was like, wow, really, I really am. What had ended up happening was I was focusing on social media and pleasing everybody else instead of pleasing myself first, or taking
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
care of my family. And that's when I started to really dig myself in a huge rut. When you start worrying about pleasing everybody else and what's going on around you and
Mm-hmm.
making everyone else happy instead of yourself and focusing on the things that truly matter, you start to lose sight of what life is truly about. And when I looked at that number that day, and I had been through a divorce, and then I started drinking heavily, all those things just started to come about. And I started to realize that that's just not who I wanted to be in my life. That's not what I
Mm-hmm.
wanted. And it was time for change. And I'd realized that all of my time had been dedicated to social media and making other people laugh and doing things for others, when I was like, why don't I just do something for myself for once?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
What were some of the lies that you told yourself or you were telling yourself? And again, this is all for, I think sometimes it's hard for people to see it in their own behavior and their own
Right.
relationships. So like, what was that for you? Like the lies you were believing?
I think I was telling myself, it's okay. Tomorrow is another day.
Right.
And when in reality, tomorrow adds up to 365 days, and then it adds up to 2 or 3 years. And then before you know it, your life has passed you by and your kids are grown and you've lost your job and you're now morbidly obese and you're depressed in your head and you have anxiety and you're biting your nails and you don't know what to do next.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that, when you start that path, you think at the time it's okay. And then when you're actually on the path, you don't see the destruction that you're leaving behind until it's too late. And so social media for me was the end point, and I had to get off. So I got off for a couple of years, and I finally came back on when I felt like I was okay to not spend all of my time doing that and not please the world. And so, here we are now. And
Right.
I'm just trying to grow and help people grow as well.
Right.
That's awesome. I have realized this for myself over the last probably 4 years, and it was Ryan Mickler when we had him on our show a while back. I said, Ryan, when you're, because his story, his wife left him because he was just being a huge douchebag, right? And he admits to it, and he's like, so when my wife left, and I knew that this was real, I made the choice to become the best man that I can be. Not just for my wife, just so I'll win her back or whatever, for the next person that comes along, right? So he made the individual choice of, okay, all this went to hell. I am doing something for myself. And until I realized that, just as my own man, in the last 5 years, 4 or 5 years or so, the change, would just be frustrated. I'm doing all this stuff for her, or I'm trying to make her happy, or trying to make people at work happy, all this stuff. But inside, I was just like, this is not good. This is not fulfilling. And it makes me think about, when you fly on a plane or something, and especially if you have little kids, your first instinct is like, okay, if stuff goes down, I'm, getting to the kids first, going to help them. But they say, no, you put your own mask on first, because I am absolutely no good if, something goes down, I put all the masks on the kids, and then boom, I pass out. I'm laying there on the floor. What am I going to do to help them? No. So the key point, in my opinion, is to take care of yourself first. That's not a selfish act. In fact, it's selfless, because you're way more effective. You're way more a stronger tool in the toolbox. If you take care of yourself first, then you can help other people to the best of your ability.
Right. And I don't think you mean a douchey way, like I'm doing me, I'm out, right?
No,
like that's not what
a
you mean.
selfish thing.
Right.
It's in fact selfless, but it just seems so counterintuitive. I'm going to do me. Ugh.
Right. And I do want to ask, what did it feel like for you to start changing? Because I know, like, whenever I've started a workout routine that I'm not used to, it's hard, and it's a lot harder than I think it's going to be. So talk about what that was like for you, and sort of I want to say, like, demons that you face. That sounds really weird, but you know what I mean? Like, what blocks did you keep hitting that you had to actually work through?
Right. Well, at first it was the hardest thing that I've ever done. It was like getting off of a drug.
Right.
It was waking up every day and having to be consistent. Persistence will get you there. Consistency will keep it. And there's a quote that I had heard a long time ago. I don't know if I'd heard it or seen it, but it was the day you plant the seed is not the day you eat the fruit. And
that's good.
That's one of the things that I had to learn how to get over. Was I wanted results immediately. I'm like, you know what? I'm quick to it. I've got tattoos on my body that I just walked in. I was like, I'll take that.
Right.
I'm like, what?
You and me both.
Don't we all?
Because I'm just like, it's what I was feeling at the time. But the day you plant the seed is not the day you eat the fruit. If you really think about that, it's like, okay, if I want to be somewhere with my body in the gym, well, that result's not going to come in one day. It comes in 3 to 6 months after planning your meals right, and then staying off of sugars, and then eating less carbs or whatever you may be doing, and then waking up every day at a certain time to go to the gym and making it happen, and not putting anything else before that. So when I was in the middle of that transformation, just trying to figure myself out, I thought about that seed all the time. I'm like, man, is it growing? Is it growing? Is it growing? And when you look in the mirror, sometimes you may or you may not see it, but in the end, when you start to find more peace in your life,
Mm-hmm.
that's when you start to feel the growth. And as I started to find more peace with where I was at, I started to train harder and I started to do things more consistently and I just started to be better. And then it was as if the drug just kind of disappeared. And my new drug was the transformation into my new life
Mm-hmm.
and growing and feeling like I was invincible. And
Mm-hmm.
when you start to feel that way, and you're on schedule every day and you continuously do it and then you don't have to think about it, that's
Mm-hmm.
when you know that your seed is growing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I was at in my life. And it obviously I still have a lot of growth to do. I think that we're going to grow until the day that we die,
Mm-hmm.
because we're always continuously learning. However, you have to make a choice. It's either today or it's going to be never, that you're going to
Mm-hmm.
plant the seed and then you got to continuously water it if you want to watch it grow. And
Mm-hmm.
so um, that's that was the hardest thing that I've ever done, was getting rid of all the things that gave me pleasure,
Mm-hmm.
i.e. social media, because I had women, I had everything under the sun that I wanted
Right.
at all times. And in the end, those were just things that brought negativity into my life and gave me no feelings of being wholesome. It was
Mm-hmm.
kind of just feeling a void. I had a cut on my body and I ripped the band-aid off every day and replaced it with something new, and it never healed until I learned how to really work on myself. So
Right.
Yeah.
That's huge.
I
It-
hope
It's
I hope that I answered that question.
Oh
Yeah.
no,
Oh
no,
yeah.
that's perfect. It's like a we do all these things and it's just a smoke screen, right? Like
Yeah,
another big thing that I had for myself that I just realized, it's like, okay, all these areas I'm checking out, and it's not
right.
like, oh, I'm going to the casino and blowing all the money, or I'm getting drunk every single night, or like cheating, or nothing huge and major. It's like, oh, wait a minute, spending too much time on social media. Oh, hitting the snooze button. It's like just
Absolutely.
checking out and not doing these things. One of my favorite quotes that I read a couple years ago was, discipline is the bridge from where you are now to where you want to be. And like,
Mm-hmm.
oh man, that like visualization, it's like, okay, there's this huge chasm, right? I got to walk across this bridge. On the other side is a great body, is a consistent schedule, is fulfilling relationships, is like self-esteem, just bonkers, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do I get there? Consistency and discipline. So that's the bridge. So
Right.
that's how you do it. That's
Right.
just how you do
I
it.
would actually love to know, did you have like a vision of who you wanted to become when you started that journey?
Yeah, I just wanted to be a better man. I wanted to be
Mm-hmm.
a man of my word and a man of honesty. And when I was in my first marriage, I mean, I'm not married right now, but when I was in my only marriage that I was in, I wasn't always honest, but it was because I hated myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I told myself, I was like, I'm going to learn to love myself so I don't have to lie about who I am or the feelings
Mm-hmm.
that I have or the things that I do. And when I started to become that, I met my girlfriend who I'm with now. My life started to change. And then I all of a sudden applied to a job that I ended up getting that I always wanted to do. And then things just started to roll into the way that they are now. One of the things that I struggled with the most was listening to other people or little birdies in my ear telling me that I couldn't do it. And that
Mm-hmm.
was the hardest thing. We had talked earlier about a quote from my friend Julia. She said, "The loudest boos come from the cheapest seats."
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because it's always the people who aren't doing shit with their fucking lives that sit up
Right.
in
Right.
the stands and they bicker and they complain and they always
Right.
talk about you.
Right.
And
Mm-hmm.
I used to listen to those boos all the
Mm-hmm.
time, and I would take them and I would harbor them. And that if it was 1,000,000 pounds sitting on my shoulders and I couldn't shake it. And then one day when I was like, dude, I'm just gonna go deaf and I'm just gonna do me and
Mm-hmm.
just create my path. That's when I really started to change. I had a good friend of mine named Neil. He's the owner of Ready Gunner. He told me one day, right before I got off social media, he said, Tank, I want to give you some good advice on your new journey if you decide to get off. Because I told him I was thinking about leaving. He said, persistence will get you there, consistency will keep it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
If you really think about that, it's the life is the grind. You wake up every day and you're doing something, right? You're persistent. Man, this is what I'm gonna do. I gotta get up, I gotta get up. But it's the time span that you actually do it is where the change comes.
Mm-hmm.
So it reverts back to planting that seed. You plant the seed, you're not going to get the results the same day.
Right.
Persistency, you're persistent, and then consistency is what's going to keep it. And when I really started to become consistent, that's when my mind completely cleared, and I no longer heard the booze in the stands, and I no longer listened to all the bullshit, and I had my schedule and the things that I wanted to do, and I was off my phone, and my relationship was amazing. I was telling her the truth all the time, no matter how I felt, and she was accepting of it, and I was like, holy crap, this is what life is supposed to be about. And then my relationship with my son started to grow, and then all these things started to happen. I got the job of my dreams, and then I've been growing in that. And now it's like social media is kind of a not a secondary, but if third dairy or fourth dairy was a word, it's like that's down the path. Those are things that I don't really worry about, anymore. And I at this point in my life focus on what is going to make me happy and not everybody else. And it's because of the consistency that I decided to, keep in my life over that amount of time.
Yeah.
So clarification, you're not talking about I'm focusing on what makes me happy, like, oh, let's drink 6 beers tonight, or have 100 pastries or whatever. It's not that. It's what actually makes you happy, that makes you feel good inside. It's more of like a
it's like a soul level,
like a balanced happiness, right?
One of the hardest things for me is getting rid of people or things in my life that bring negativity into my life and don't make me feel good. And it took me a really long time to realize that there were some folks that I've had in my life for a while that just are not fitting of where I'm at right now. Right. I tell people this analogy all the time, and you guys and we've actually talked about this before. Your life is a book. It is built with chapters, and each chapter you tell a completely different story until the day that you die, where it says the end. And too many chapters of my life were filled with people who really didn't need to be in those chapters. But the beauty of those people being in those chapters were the lessons that you learn from reading them. And when you start to mature and you start to change and you start to have consistency in your life, that's when you start to realize my next chapters have got to be completely different if I want my children or my children's children to read and to gain some knowledge off of my book until it says the end. Because they got to write their own stories too. And they got to have some leader to follow. And if you're continuously doing bullshit in your life, then those chapters are filled with nothing but nonsense, and you will have never had led a life where somebody else could follow it. And I think that, when I started to realize that there was bullshit that I was continuously just bringing into the next chapter, I could make a change, right? And then I'm like, oh man, I feel so good, but I brought this extra baggage with me that's been with me for 25, 30 chapters. So what you're doing is essentially you're rewriting that same chapter the exact same way. If you want to make a fucking change in your life, you have to get rid of all the bullshit that's holding you back, and you got to be honest about it. Too many men these days and too many women are not honest in who they are in their heart and who they are in their mind, because they latch onto that one little thing, and that one little thing is what holds them down. And it could be the tiniest of things, like a friend from your childhood. If you have that friend from your childhood that you're like, I can't get rid of them. However, they're fucking pieces of shit. What's going to hold you down that entire time in your next chapter? And are you really growing? No, because you're a product of your environment.
Right.
So as you're writing your chapters, you're looking to the end. So don't write the chapter with the same thing every time, because people get tired of that shit. So sometimes you got to cut it completely off if you want to start the next chapter fresh and you really want to make a change. So when I'm reading that last chapter right before it says the end, my mind is blown. And I'm like, holy shit, I've learned so much from this human being while he or she was here on the face of this earth.
Right. I love the concept of like imagining yourself as a character in a book that you are literally writing. Because I think when we can separate ourselves from what I'm doing every day versus, oh, I see it on a page, and I can look back in a year and read about, oh, I didn't exercise all last year, or, oh, I like cuss my husband out every day all last year. No wonder I'm still in the stupid part of my book. Like, I think that's actually a really helpful reframe of how to see it. That's awesome.
Yeah. And then it ends up being a boring book that nobody wants to read. But like one of the things that I thought, I want my kids, we have 2 sons and 1 daughter. I want, you know how like if you had to write a paper or do a report or something, you go, oh, let me go get this reference from over here or whatever. I want my book and our story of our marriage, individually and together, I want my kids to be able to go, oh man, how do I do that? Let me go to dad's book and see how he did it right. You know what I'm saying? So I want to be a positive reference for that. And then going back to the thing of like, you know, your bullshit friends in elementary school, like holding you back right now. I swear, man, I struggle with this too, because I think like, I mean, kids I knew in 4th and 5th and 6th grade, like because of stupid Facebook now, and we haven't spoken in like 10 years, I'm worried about what I say or don't say on the show that they may be watching and they're going to think something. That's 10. And I haven't talked to him in 10 years. I had this guy reach out. I did a post or something, and I swear I have not talked to this guy in 10 years. And he DM'd me and said, how could you say something like that? Duh, duh, duh. And I deleted. I didn't even reply back. I was like, what in the world is going on? I'm just like, okay, I'm purging everything. I'm not burning bridges, you know? So I'm just like, nope, don't need that. It's like I have a weighted vest when I run and stuff. So it's like, take that weighted vest off. Be free, man. Do you? You know what I'm saying?
You know what I used to tell people back in my days when I just didn't care? I would look them in the eye and I'd say, fuck your opinion. It's just the truth. And I still feel the same way. Right now, I'm just a little bit more politically correct because I carry a badge on my chest that belongs to the people, and I don't want to disappoint the people. I enjoy doing my job because I enjoy helping people. However, sometimes you just got to say, fuck your fucking opinion.
Right.
That's just the truth. You are here, and this is your life. One day, it is going to end for you. Do you want to live it listening to other people and what their opinion holds you back and tells you how to live your life? Hell no. I don't want my chapter written on your fucking opinion. It's going to be written on my decisions every day, not yours. And that's how it is. And it's like, you know, when you were just talking about, you had said a book that nobody wants to read. My book right now is so up and down. It's unfucking believable. But you know what I think about that book is that it's beautiful because it shares so much life experience, man. Like I was abused as a child, right? We've talked about this. I was raped when I was a kid. Well, that has been the biggest burden of my entire life is trying to get over that. I'd never faced that demon. And so I joined the Marines so I could become a man and learn how to like charge and be a tough guy. And, you know, I could take on the world. Well, that was a product of what had happened to me when I was a child. So I'd written all these chapters, and then I became, I wouldn't say, is womanizer a good thing when you sleep with a lot of women? I don't know. But I was a ladies man. So dude, I was a ladies man. So I was like, I'm just going to fucking sleep with everybody. This is fun. And I was doing my thing and blah, blah, blah. But in the end, I was doing all these things because I hadn't faced the demons that were taken and put into my life when I was a child. And until I really actually sat down and started to face these things, I wasn't being the man that I actually wanted to be. And so my book was like this. It was that tidal wave of emotion all the time. One day I had a high, and then the next day I had a super low. So in that, what I was doing to combat my feelings was, man, when I was doing all that social media stuff, when I got out of the Marines, I was flying to California for one day to sleep with somebody. And then I would be in Phoenix, Arizona the next day, jumping out of a plane. And then I would go to Savannah, Georgia, and I'd shoot flamethrowers with my friends. And then I flew to Australia to go do something overnight one time. And then it was just so back and forth. Well, that chapter and those stories are fun, and that's really rad. However, my mind and my heart wasn't always in the right place anymore, and I wasn't taking care of myself. So what ended up happening when I had cut all the bullshit out of my life, one of the greatest things happened to me was I met somebody that I actually fell in love with and that supported me and that I was honest with every day and made me feel like I was somebody. And so I was able to face all the things that I had done, and I was able to talk about things without any feeling like I was going to get any repercussion. And so, you know, 2 years ago, I wrote a new chapter and I included somebody in it. And those 2 chapters so far have been absolutely incredible. A journey of of change and a journey of winning myself over every day and learning to fall in love with myself again. And that comes from realizing, like, hey man, if you're honest with yourself and you face the demons that have been sitting on your chest this entire time, and you learn that it's okay to say fuck your opinion, and it's okay to be a victim, and it's okay to be rowdy and make all these mistakes because you still have another chapter to write, then all of your chapters in the future are going to be absolutely beautiful. And your book is going to be great because you can say, hey man, here's all the fucked up things that I did in the past, and have fun reading them because I got a lot of stories to tell you.
Yeah.
Here's where I started to change and mature. And this is what happens when I did that. My credit shot to the roof, and then my savings account went up, and then I stopped talking to people, and I started to hold my girl's hand tighter. And then I started to take my son out and leave my phone in the car, and all these things started to happen. And so I think, like, bringing a good person in your life and getting rid of all the nonsense by just being honest with yourself, and, you know, sharing your life experiences through saying fuck your opinion to everybody else is what really helped me shape my new chapters and my new way of life. And I would tell, you know, guys and gals out there that are listening to this podcast, if you really want to change your life, you have to be honest with yourself. You got to nut up or shut up.
Right.
You're gonna talk about it or be about it, Seth. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, I do.
People who talk about things and they're not out there fucking getting it. And if you're not gonna get it, then you're gonna be the same. You're gonna be the exact same person when you're 85 that you were when you were 35, and you're gonna look back and you're gonna be crying inside because fuck, you see that it's the end, and you had actually done nothing with your life, so you left nothing tangible or intangible for anybody.
Right. And that's a nightmare, man.
Right.
Nobody wants to be on their deathbed. A couple things you said made me think of this guy, Ed Milet, and he has the Ed Milet podcast, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
And he says, we build self-esteem and all this stuff by doing the things we say by keeping the promises that we make to ourselves, right? So last year I finished 75 Hard, the whole 75 Hard program, right? And this year I'm doing it again on like day 3 right now. And I got so much self-confidence, not from like, hey, look at me, I got the, biggest balls ever. Yeah. But like, hey, I said that I was going to do this. This is for me. It's not for her. It's not for anybody on the show or anything. It's for me. And when I finished that, I was like, fuck yeah, I did this. You know what I'm saying? So you're building that self-confidence, and I wasn't bullshitting anybody. I'm really good at that, by the way. You probably are too. Like, I can bullshit and promise, and I can over promise and under deliver until the cows come home. And then I can bullshit myself every day, all day. Right. But it left no room for no BS anywhere when I did it last year. Right. And that is what is like, okay, let's break through walls. And it's not just this big macho talk kind of thing. It's like, oh, wait a minute. You said what you did what you said, and you deliver. Okay. That's what, that's the type of man I am, the type of husband, the type of dad. And nobody can take that away from me. And it's earned. You know what I'm saying? And again, that's not like a cocky kind of thing. It's like, well, no, it's like, hey, I did it. This is what it is. I put in the work, and it feels, it's undescribable. Right. And I've felt more of my life not feeling that way. And then the last 2 years feeling that way. I'm like, okay, these last 2 chapters, like you were talking about, these last 2 years has been just bonkers in the best way possible.
Yeah, absolutely. You had said, I just wrote this down. It said overpromise and underdeliver. Man, I'll tell you what, I am a product of that. That was me. I made so many promises, and I wouldn't put it on a schedule. And then somebody would expect me to be doing something. They'd shoot me a message, be like, hey, are you going to be here? And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And it could be anything. Sometimes I would overpromise myself and underdeliver. I'm going to be in the gym every day. And then I was in the gym 1 time a day, which is, becoming a going trend for me right now with my new work schedule, by the way. But overpromising and under-delivering is like, you want to start making a change in your life, and then you write down all of these goals on your sheet, and this is your path for the whole year. But sometimes you write down too many things, and they become overwhelming, so you can't actually even really accomplish the first or the second thing. I challenge everybody to write down 1 or 2 things that you want to deliver on. And then when you deliver on them, then pick one or two things that you want to deliver on the next week or the next couple months. And then challenge yourself to go above and beyond after you've completed those.
Mm-hmm.
Too many of us take on too many things in our life, and then it weighs us down. So we can't actually stand up on our own 2 feet and complete the hike.
Mm-hmm.
Lighten your pack and then complete the hike. And then the conditioning in that path and that journey is what's going to make you stronger to carry heavier weight next time.
Mm-hmm.
So you can, at that point, make a promise, you can deliver on it, and then you can continue down that path. And then people will believe you and you'll believe yourself. And then you start to make changes. So in the end, if you're not conditioned to do a 60-mile hike with a 60-pound ruck, then why are you just throwing it on your shoulders and attempting the first time? Because it's not going to happen.
Right.
Like, lighten your load to 5 pounds, dude, and do 30 miles. And then once you complete that, then go from there.
Right.
Yeah. Maybe this is a Southern saying, if you've heard it before, but don't let your mouth write checks that your ass can't cash.
I've heard a lot. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, I want to write a check, you know, hey, I'm going to do that. And then when they go to cash it or whatever, you know, the proof is in the pudding kind of thing, then there's going to be money in the bank, metaphorically.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Start small. Don't write the check if it's going to bounce.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So
yeah.
write a check for $1. I don't care how big it is, but have $1 in the bank.
Right. And I love that idea of you're saying like lighten your load and do like go farther with a lighter load, because what we find with a lot of our couples is that they'll be like, okay, I'm going to change everything. Here I am, new person, new year, new me. And then they screw up because they literally don't know how to do any of it. And so they fall 1,000 times. And it's like, how about you just pick one or two things, like stop cussing your wife out and then start saying you love her. Just try that for a few months. And then that will give you that persistence and the conditioning, like you mentioned, to become the spouse or the partner or the person you want to become. So I love that. You don't often hear that. Like, don't try to do it all at once, do it incrementally. And then another idea that came up too was like, we talked about this last time we spoke, was this idea, like, you don't build a big city or a home in a place that constantly has earthquakes, right? Like you don't, a perfect example
Some
is like
people do.
Hawaii has like lava all the time,
Volcanoes,
right?
yeah.
You don't build a house where there's going to be a volcano. And when I'm using the reference of like a volcano, you can't live your life like, oh, well, I don't feel like working out, not gonna, see you later. Like you can't do these highs and lows like that and expect a solid foundation to ever be able to be built. You have to stop having your own earthquakes. You have to stop like exploding and then being crazy all the time or whatever, going against your own word, to create the sort of boring, safe place for a good foundation. And that's hard. It's really hard.
I agree with you 100%. You know, I know that a lot of people have heard that saying, less is more. I firmly believe in that. It's like, if you live a life of simplicity, it could be, today I'm going to tell, 3 truths with no lies.
Right.
And I'm going to be honest about it. Or, hey, you know what? Right now, I want to go buy a jet ski. I'm not going to spend $400 a month on a jet ski. So I don't want to stress about that bill that's coming every month and then my credit's fucked. So it's like, do I really need that in my life? No, less is more. Or, there's a set of glassware at Target that I want, $60-something. Well, do I really need that? Because then I have to wash all that shit.
Right.
Right.
All these things that you can add up into your life. It's like, it could be anything that I could talk about right now when it comes to less is more. But it's like, summarize your daily routine of, instead of trying to knock everything out or do 100 things in 10 hours, why not just focus on doing 1 or 2 things a day that make you happy and that that you can accomplish. And then as you start to get stronger in yourself and your belief of yourself, then maybe take on a 3rd thing. And then maybe your credit line with yourself opens up. And then you start to realize, well, I was worth this much. And now I feel like I'm worth this much inside. And then other people start to see that. Because if I make a promise to somebody like, hey, I'm going to be there on this time and this date, and then I don't deliver, then what happens? My consistency goes out the window. And do they really believe in me? Probably not.
Yeah.
Unless it's like some dire emergency, and they got to understand that. However, if I deliver every damn time, then they know, hey, no matter what, we don't have to remind this person, this is going to happen. And so if other people can believe that about you, then imagine the things that you can actually believe about yourself or the things that you can accomplish in your life. And I
Right.
think that too many people fail to grow and get where they want to be from their foundation because they overpromise, they underdeliver, because they take on too many things in their life that they can't actually carry their load, and they don't believe in themselves. And you start to not believe in yourself when you do those things.
Mm,
So I would say stop overpromising and just promise one thing that you know you can deliver on. And
right.
when
Right.
you do that, you automatically lighten your load. And if you can carry that load, then you can start to pace out the things that you can carry and the things that you can promise and the things that you can absolutely deliver. And then
Mhm.
that's a good start for your consistent life and planting your new seed and who you want to be and where you want to go. Set your goal for 6 months down the road. And if you've done all of those things, then change your goals and see what you can accomplish with that. And then if it starts to get a little bit too heavy, all you got to do is just open up the pack and lighten the load.
Mhm.
Stop over promising and under delivering.
Exactly.
Love it.
So I want to be aware of your time, and thank you so much. I think this is going to add value, or has added value to so many people listening. So it's awesome. Thank you. And so, could you say, because we're in January 2021 right now, what
Yeah.
are some of your goals? And you don't have to be super specific or whatever, but it's like, okay, what do you want your 2021 to look like overall? Tell me how you're growing this year.
Man, look, I just became debt free, so I'm about to buy 3 jet skis. So no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Perfect. And
But
ride them all at once.
I did actually surprise myself this year. So when my girlfriend moved in with me in early 2020,
Mhm.
we had quite a bit of debt because we wanted to refurnish the whole place and everything else. We stayed diligent enough with our promises, and we actually got everything paid off. And
Nice.
so
Nice.
I told myself for 2021 that I was gonna be small and live small. That's literally what I told myself. I haven't told anybody my New Year's resolution or whatever, but I said I'm just gonna be small and live small. I'm just gonna take things a day at a time this year,
Mhm.
and I'm just gonna be happy with it. I don't want to tell myself I'm gonna do this because sometimes, or do one thing specifically because me myself, I tend to fall off track because I'm like a Malinois dog, man. You throw a ball and I'm there.
Mhm.
So I get all these goals in mind, and then I sometimes I carry too much in my pack, and so I just said I'm just gonna be small and live small. Maybe I'll read a little bit more every week, or maybe I'll study more, or maybe I'll just clean the house more. I'm not going to make any huge goals this year for
Mhm.
myself. I don't want to make a huge transition because I feel like right now I'm actually right where I want to be. So if I
Mm.
do have some things that I wanted to share, or I would share, is that I'm gonna I'm going to you know take more little like day trips with my girlfriend, and I'm gonna spend more time with my son outside of work now that I have 3 days off straight. And it's not going to be about me; it's going to be about other people.
Nice.
That's my goal for the new year.
Mhm.
And um, those are some of the things that I want to do this year to work on me, is do things for other people. So
Mm.
there's too many people doing things for me all the time. So I want to
Yeah.
try to give back as much as I can. So
That's
That
awesome.
that's awesome. That quote, Zig Ziglar, the motivational speaker guy, he says, "Do enough things for other people." Well, this is not verbatim, but do enough things for other people, and
You
shit,
don't,
what
it's
is it?
like do what
Uh,
they want, you'll get what you want. I don't know.
serve enough.
Don't even
Anyway,
try.
it's like
It's a good quote.
serve enough people, and then you'll find your happiness in that kind of
Mhm.
thing. Man, I just butchered
100%.
that up.
I'll leave
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
with a personal quote: "What you don't give away, you don't get back."
Oh, I like that. I like that.
I
You think
love it.
about it. You think about
Right.
it. What you don't give away, you don't get back. If you're a selfish
That's really
person,
true.
you're not doing anything for anybody else. It's like, what are you really getting out of life?
Yeah.
Mhm.
You may not ever get anything tangible, but how many intangibles will you have
Mhm.
Mhm.
when you give things away to folks, whether it be your
Right.
time or something materialistic, or just a text of, "Hey, I really appreciate you,"
Mhm.
Yeah.
Uh,
Right.
Oh
and
man.
delivering on your word. It's you get like justice, judgment, decisiveness, initiative, dependability. tact, integrity, endurance, bearing, unselfishness, courage, knowledge, loyalty, enthusiasm. The list could go on. It may not be something tangible, but the intangibles that you gain as a human being by giving something away to somebody are out of this world.
Mm-hmm.
Man,
That's awesome.
I love that. I love that. So, Tank, of course, it's been amazing, man. Thank you so much for taking the time. For people who want to know more about you and what you're doing, where can they find you?
Well, so I have a little Instagram. I changed it recently to Lock It Up Tank. And there's a little story behind that. When I was in boot camp in the Marine Corps, my senior drill instructor looked at me because I was eating a Skittle when I shouldn't have been. And he literally snapped his fingers and he said, "Lock it up, Tank." And I'll remember it like it was yesterday because it scared the fire out of me. And so I changed my IG name to that because when I start to veer off path a little bit, I remind myself to lock it up in my head, and it keeps me on the straight and narrow. So
love it. So Lock It Up Tank on Instagram. Okay.
That's awesome.
Anywhere else or any other stuff you got going on?
No, that's it. Just working every day. No more social media, none of that stuff. I can't keep up with all that craziness right now. So
yeah.
And I do have a podcast coming out, The Journey to Win, with my buddy Brandon, who's a Navy SEAL. So there's going to be a little bit of competition on that podcast because I'm a Marine. So,
Awesome.
I can't wait for that. I'm not going to lie. That sounds so.
I would love for you guys to be guests on the podcast. I talked to Brandon about it because, I think we already have 1,000 followers in like a day or two. So, it's gonna grow and it'll be big and it's just gonna be with people who want to win in life. And you two are obviously doing that. You're trying to plant seeds in people's lives to help them grow. And I think that's important for all of us.
Yeah, man.
That would be so cool.
We'd love to be on. Of course, thank you so much for taking the time. Know you're a busy man. You're doing good stuff out there. And yeah, that one quote is gonna stick with me. You can't get what you can't give away.
You're not gonna say it
I
right.
didn't say it right, but I got
the idea. Don't give away, you don't get back.
There we go.
Right. That's
you just heard it and you messed it up.
I'm remember that.
But thank you again for your time. Thank you so much. We are excited for your podcast to come out, and I'm excited for how this show is going to transform the lives of our listeners and how you have transformed our life because you have. So
that's right.
Thank you so much.
I really appreciate that. I'm gonna take a little photo real quick of us. So.
Oh yeah.
Let's do this.
Love it. Thank you guys for having me on. I really appreciate it. It's been a great morning so far, and you planted the seed in me this morning that I needed to go out and sprout today. So thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Have
brother.
a great rest of your day.
All right, man. We'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Bye.
See you.
All right. Later.